In a stunning development that underscores the shifting landscape of international relations and domestic politics, the relationship between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reached a boiling point. The tension has escalated following Trump's initiation of talks with Russia to end the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, a move that Zelensky criticized as placing Ukraine in a disinformation space. In response, Trump labeled Zelensky a dictator, igniting a firestorm of criticism from Kiev's allies. The historical context of this relationship is fraught with ups and downs. It began positively in 2019 when Trump congratulated Zelensky on his election victory, calling it an incredible election. However, the dynamic changed dramatically when allegations emerged that Trump had pressured Zelensky to investigate the Biden family, resulting in Trump's first impeachment. This rocky foundation has now led to a public exchange of barbs, with Zelensky accusing Trump of being ensnared in Russian disinformation and Trump countering that Zelensky has led Ukraine into a costly conflict without adequate results. Recent events have further strained this relationship. Trump's administration has faced criticism for excluding Ukraine from crucial peace talks with Russia held in Saudi Arabia, leading Zelensky to express his frustration that decisions about Ukraine are being made without Ukraine. This sentiment was echoed by Trump, who expressed disappointment over Ukraine's reaction, suggesting that the country could have negotiated an earlier deal to avoid the war. Adding to the drama, U.S. officials, including Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, visited Kyiv amid these tensions. A planned press conference between Kellogg and Zelensky was abruptly cancelled, signaling deeper fractures in the U.S.-Ukrainian alliance. Trump's administration has shifted its focus, with Kellogg now being referred to as a special envoy just to Ukraine, a title change reflecting the contentious atmosphere. Meanwhile, the fallout from these diplomatic spats extends beyond Ukraine. Trump's controversial comments about Zelensky have raised alarms about the U.S.'s commitment to supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. In a recent statement to the World Economic Forum, Trump claimed that Zelensky wants to make a deal, but he also implied that Russia's President Vladimir Putin might not be amenable, further complicating the narrative surrounding U.S.-Russia relations. In the tech sphere, the conversation has veered towards cryptocurrency as well. Trump inadvertently stirred the pot by suggesting that Elon Musk was in charge of the Dogecoin cryptocurrency, a statement that raised eyebrows given Musk's influential status in the digital currency market. This remark came amidst broader discussions about financial stability and regulatory measures that are increasingly relevant in today's economy. As the U.S. grapples with its foreign policy direction under Trump, which includes a notable pivot towards engaging more diplomatically with Russia, the implications for Ukraine are profound. The ongoing conflict, coupled with the rift between Trump and Zelensky, could have lasting effects on the geopolitical landscape. Observers are left wondering how Ukraine will navigate its path forward without being sidelined in negotiations that directly affect its sovereignty. The future remains uncertain, with both Trump and Zelensky seemingly at an impasse. Analysts speculate that the escalating tensions may compel Ukraine to seek alternative alliances or strategies to bolster its position. As diplomatic efforts continue, the world watches closely, awaiting developments that could reshape the balance of power in Eastern Europe and beyond. In a striking escalation of tensions, former President Donald Trump has issued a stark warning to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, urging him to negotiate an end to the ongoing war with Russia swiftly or risk losing his nation entirely. This admonition, delivered during a recent address at the Future Investment Initiative Summit in Miami Beach, has sparked outrage among Democrats and some Republicans who view Trump's comments as a betrayal of Ukraine amid its struggle against Russian aggression. Trump's rhetoric, characterized by a series of incendiary remarks, has drawn fire not only from political opponents but also from within his own party. The former president labeled Zelensky a dictator without elections, a jarring statement considering Zelensky was democratically elected in 2019. Trump's claims are compounded by his assertion that the war, which began with Russia's unprovoked invasion in February 2022, was instigated by Ukraine itself, an assertion that has been widely condemned as a distortion of reality. This is a war that could have been avoided, Trump asserted, suggesting that Zelensky should have brokered a deal earlier, thereby implying that the Ukrainian leader bears responsibility for the current conflict. In a post on his Truth Social platform, he criticized Zelensky's leadership, stating, "Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left." This sentiment underscores a growing rift between Trump and the bipartisan support Ukraine has historically received in Washington. Zelensky responded to Trump's remarks by accusing the former president of falling prey to Russian disinformation, emphasizing the need for truth in diplomatic discussions. "I wish Trump's team had more truth," he remarked, highlighting the detrimental impact of Trump's statements on Ukraine's international standing and morale. Vice President J.D. Vance also cautioned Zelensky against publicly rebuking Trump, suggesting that such critiques could further complicate Ukraine's diplomatic efforts. The political fallout from Trump's comments has been swift. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer condemned the former president's narrative, calling it disgusting to see an American leader align with Russian President Vladimir Putin against an ally. Republican Senator John Kennedy voiced his disagreement with Trump, affirming that it was indeed Putin who initiated the conflict. Meanwhile, Senator Dick Durbin called for an apology from Trump, accusing him of undermining the sacrifices made by Ukrainians during the war. Beyond the immediate political implications, Trump's comments reflect a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy discourse regarding Russia and Ukraine. As the Biden administration continues to navigate the complexities of international alliances amid rising global tensions, Trump's rhetoric may embolden those who advocate for a more isolationist approach to foreign intervention. Discontent within Ukraine's leadership regarding Trump's stance has also surfaced, particularly following negotiations that failed to yield satisfactory agreements on U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Ukrainian officials expressed confusion over Trump's strategy, questioning why concessions should be made to an aggressor. Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to Zelensky, articulated this sentiment, stating, "Why should dominance be handed over to a country that is an aggressor, a violator of international law?" As talks continue among U.S. and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia, the absence of Ukrainian and European representatives raises further concerns about the direction of negotiations. Trump's approach, which appears to favor rapid resolution over comprehensive peace, may not align with Ukraine's long-term interests, leaving the nation in a precarious position. Looking ahead, the ramifications of Trump's statements on U.S.-Ukraine relations are yet to fully unfold. With the 2024 presidential campaign approaching, the former president's narrative could either galvanize support for a more aggressive stance against Russia or deepen divisions within the Republican Party regarding foreign policy. As Ukraine continues to fight for its sovereignty, the interplay of rhetoric and reality in U.S. politics will undoubtedly play a critical role in shaping the future of the conflict. In the rapidly evolving landscape of American politics, President Donald Trump's administration is making headlines with a flurry of executive actions, controversial nominations, and a renewed focus on economic policies that promise to reshape the federal workforce. As Trump embarks on his second term, the implications of his decisions are reverberating across various sectors, igniting debate among lawmakers and citizens alike. One of the most significant developments this week is the impending Senate vote on Kash Patel's nomination to lead the FBI. A former aide to Trump, Patel's candidacy has sparked fierce opposition from Democrats who express concerns over his past rhetoric regarding the January 6 defendants and the potential for politically motivated firings within the Bureau. Despite this, Republicans have rallied around Patel, advancing his nomination with a narrow party line vote of 48 to 45. Should he be confirmed, Patel would assume leadership of the FBI for a 10-year term, succeeding Christopher Wray, who resigned amid increasing scrutiny. At the same time, the Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee has moved forward with Linda McMahon's nomination for Secretary of Education, also in a party line vote, reflecting the administration's broader push to reshape federal agencies in line with its policy priorities. McMahon, a former WWE executive, faces questions regarding her commitment to traditional public education values, a concern echoed by critics who worry about the administration's direction. As Trump emphasizes his agenda at the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC Vice President J.D. Vance has emerged as a key voice, promising to push through a budget reconciliation bill filled with Trump's policy initiatives by May or June. Vance's remarks highlight a growing urgency among Republicans to capitalize on their majority while they can, especially as the party navigates internal divisions over priorities such as school choice, which has pitted some conservatives against one another. Concurrently, Trump's administration is also implementing substantial cuts to the federal workforce, with thousands of federal employees already affected. Reports indicate that probationary employees across various departments, including the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have been laid off as part of a larger strategy to streamline government operations. The administration's Department of Government Efficiency, spearheaded by Elon Musk, is at the center of these drastic measures as it seeks to eliminate perceived inefficiencies. The ramifications of these firings and layoffs are significant, affecting not only the individuals involved but also the broader functionality of government services. Critics argue that the rapid workforce reductions could hinder critical programs and services, particularly in areas such as healthcare and public safety. Moreover, the freeze on federal grants and loans raises questions about the administration's long-term strategy for funding essential initiatives. In an unexpected twist, Trump has proposed a DOGE dividend, suggesting a plan to return a portion of savings accrued through government efficiency initiatives to American citizens while also addressing federal debt. This idea has garnered attention, reflecting Trump's ongoing engagement with cryptocurrency discussions and his efforts to connect with a younger, tech-savvy voter base. As the administration navigates these complex issues, the landscape is fraught with contradictions. Trump's promise of lower prices alongside tariff impositions poses a classic economic dilemma, while his simultaneous push for tax cuts and debt reduction raises questions about fiscal sustainability. The tension between these competing goals underscores the challenges of governance in a polarized political environment. Looking ahead, the coming weeks will be pivotal for the Trump administration as it seeks to solidify its agenda amidst mounting scrutiny. The outcomes of key nominations, the fate of federal employees, and the administration's fiscal strategies will shape not only the political landscape but also the everyday lives of millions of Americans. As Trump continues to assert his authority and vision for the country, the impacts of his policies will only become clearer in the months to come, setting the stage for a contentious political season ahead. And the latest twist of the ongoing political and economic saga surrounding former President Donald Trump. Recent polls indicate a significant decline in public approval regarding his handling of the economy as Trump enters his second month in office. Economic indicators and public sentiment reveal a troubling trend that could have lasting implications for his administration and the broader economic landscape. According to a new Reuters Ipsos poll conducted from February 13 to 18, Trump's approval rating has dipped to 44%, with a concerning 51% of respondents disapproving of his performance. The economy, long considered a cornerstone of his campaign and previous presidency, appears to be the primary driver of this discontent. Only 39% of those surveyed expressed approval of Trump's economic policies, while a substantial 47% voiced disapproval. These figures mark a notable shift from the end of January, where disapproval was at 41%. The economic climate is indeed shifting, with inflation rates rising to 3% annually as of January, the highest spike since June 2024. This uptick in inflation has contributed to a decline in consumer confidence, plummeting to its lowest level in 7 months. With Americans increasingly fearful that tariffs could diminish their purchasing power, the sentiment surrounding the economy is shifting from optimism to apprehension. The implications of Trump's economic policies are especially pronounced in Washington, D.C., where a wave of federal layoffs initiated by the Trump administration has begun to reverberate through the local economy. Reports indicate that over 10,000 federal workers have already been laid off from various departments, including energy, agriculture, and veterans affairs. Economists predict that these cuts could push DC into a recession, with unemployment rates expected to climb from 5.5% to a peak of 6.5% by mid-2026. Adam Kamins, a regional economist at Moody's Analytics, suggests that these layoffs will not only impact government employees but will also ripple through the local economy, jeopardizing jobs in sectors that rely on federal spending. In an unusual turn for a city that typically enjoys economic stability due to its federal employment base, the layoffs are projected to trigger a broader economic downturn in the region. The local economy, which historically serves as a refuge during national economic distress, now faces the possibility of prolonged contraction, with GDP expected to decline for 6 consecutive quarters. Kamins notes that this is a very unusual situation for DC, and that the projected job cuts will exacerbate existing economic vulnerabilities, particularly among lower-income residents. Nationally, while jobless claims remain relatively low, the surge in DC jobless claims, a stark increase from 2014 last year to 5,455 in the same 4-week period this year, highlights a troubling anomaly. As federal workers face layoffs, they may find themselves entering a cooling labor market with limited opportunities, especially in specialized fields such as administration and project management, where private sector roles are dwindling. Moreover, public sentiment reflects growing skepticism about Trump's economic strategies. A substantial 53% of poll respondents believe the economy is on the wrong track, a sharp increase from 43% just weeks prior. This sentiment is accompanied by a significant number of Americans opposing new tariffs on imports, with 54% expressing disapproval of such measures. As Trump navigates these challenging waters, the intersection of economic policy and public perception will likely play a crucial role in shaping his administration's future. The looming question remains: will the administration pivot its approach to address these growing concerns, or will it double down on current strategies amidst mounting public discontent? Moving forward, the economic landscape will undoubtedly influence not only the trajectory of Trump's presidency but also the broader political discourse in the lead-up to the next election cycle. In a significant shift that reverberates through European capitals and extends to the Pentagon, the Trump administration is pushing for a realignment of defense priorities, signaling a new era of military and diplomatic strategy. This pivot comes as Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth directed the military to identify $50 billion in budget cuts, a move aimed at redirecting funds to support President Trump's stated priorities. As the U.S. government calls for a re-evaluation of its role in global security, European nations are grappling with the implications of these changes, particularly regarding their own defense postures amidst ongoing tensions in Ukraine. The directive from Hegseth emphasizes a focus on operational readiness and the reduction of what he terms excessive bureaucracy. In a statement, Robert Salesses, acting Deputy Secretary of Defense, highlighted the need to eliminate funding for programs perceived as woke, such as diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, while advocating for a more streamlined approach to military expenditures. The proposed cuts represent approximately 8% of the military budget and echo the austerity measures seen during the 2013 sequestration, raising concerns about the potential impacts on military training and personnel readiness. Simultaneously, the diplomatic landscape in Europe is shifting in response to the Trump administration's recent overtures towards Russia. European leaders are awakening to the reality that the United States may no longer be the unwavering guarantor of security it has been for decades. This realization comes in the wake of communications from U.S. officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and President Trump himself, suggesting that European nations must take a more prominent role in supporting Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression. The sentiment in Brussels has been one of dismay, with EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas condemning U.S. actions as appeasement. The reactions from various European nations illustrate the depth of concern regarding U.S. policy. France under President Emmanuel Macron is adamant that any negotiations with Russia must include Ukraine and its allies. Macron's government views Russia as an existential threat, and he has called for a united European front to ensure Ukraine's long-term security without compromising the continent's stability. Meanwhile, Germany, facing an election cycle, is caught in a political bind, with candidates hesitant to address the implications of U.S. policy shifts on their defense strategies. Italy has expressed skepticism towards potential European troop deployments in Ukraine, aligning with a pragmatic approach that reflects its historical role as a secondary ally of the U.S. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's administration is cautious about overextending military commitments while navigating its existing obligations within NATO. Conversely, the United Kingdom is actively seeking to bridge the gap between US and European interests, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer preparing to emphasize the importance of Ukrainian sovereignty in any future negotiations. The Baltic states are advocating for immediate European action to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities, reflecting their historical vulnerability to Russian aggression. They propose accelerating Ukraine's EU accession and increasing defense spending among European nations, while also supporting Ukraine's defense industry as part of a broader rearmament strategy. As Europe grapples with the implications of these US policy changes, the overarching challenge remains clear. Countries must enhance their military capabilities in cooperation to safeguard their interests in a changing geopolitical landscape. The urgency for Europe to take the lead in its own defense is underscored by the recent developments, which could redefine transatlantic relations and the nature of European security for the foreseeable future. Looking ahead, the decisions made in the coming weeks and months will be crucial. European nations must not only strengthen their defense postures but also assert their agency in international diplomacy, particularly regarding the future of Ukraine. The path forward will require unity and resolve, as well as a willingness to adapt to a new reality where the U.S. approach to global security may not align with traditional expectations. The unfolding situation presents both challenges and opportunities for Europe as it seeks to navigate this critical juncture in its security and defense strategy. In a remarkable display of diplomatic prowess, Saudi Arabia is positioning itself as a formidable player on the global stage, leveraging its strategic relationships to navigate complex geopolitical issues. This week, Riyadh has emerged as the hub for significant negotiations involving U.S., Russian, and Arab officials, focusing on pressing matters such as the ongoing war in Ukraine and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. This diplomatic surge is further evidence of Saudi Arabia's reinvigorated international standing, bolstered by its ties with President Donald Trump, who has returned to the White House for a second term. The last few years saw Saudi Arabia labeled a pariah by the West, particularly in the wake of high-profile human rights violations and the fallout from the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. However, the Biden administration's need for Saudi cooperation, especially in energy markets, has softened its stance, opening doors for renewed engagement. Trump's arrival back in office has only accelerated this trend as he rekindles the close relationship he forged with the kingdom during his first term. During this pivotal week, Saudi Arabia has taken center stage in international diplomacy. Arab leaders are set to convene to propose alternatives to Trump's controversial idea of relocating Gaza's population, while U.S. and Russian officials engaged in talks aimed at resolving the Ukraine conflict. The meetings are not just symbolic, they underline Saudi Arabia's capacity to act as a mediator in a world increasingly marked by division. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, welcomed U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other officials with a clear message of cooperation. "We would be more than glad to work with you and with President Trump," he stated, expressing optimism about achieving positive things for Saudi Arabia and for many countries around the world. This sentiment reflects a broader strategy by Saudi Arabia to assert itself as a leader in Arab affairs, particularly as traditional powerhouses in the region such as Egypt and Iraq struggle with internal challenges. The Saudi diplomatic efforts come at a time when the Arab world is looking for a counterbalance to the waning influence of the United States. As Hassan Al-Hazen, a senior fellow at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, noted, the kingdom's global influence and regional leadership are being showcased through these high-profile talks. Saudi Arabia's neutrality in international conflicts, most notably its reluctance to take sides in the Ukraine war, has allowed it to mediate between conflicting parties and foster relationships with both the US and Russia. However, the evolving dynamics also present challenges. Trump's proposals regarding Gaza, particularly the idea of mass relocation of Palestinians, have been met with strong resistance from Saudi leaders who recognize that any viable normalization deal with Israel hinges on the establishment of a Palestinian state. This precondition is non-negotiable. The Saudi Foreign Ministry has asserted, reflecting deep-rooted public sentiment in the kingdom in favor of Palestinian rights. While Trump's administration seeks to leverage Saudi Arabia's position in pursuit of a broader geopolitical strategy, the kingdom's aspirations for a defense pact and nuclear development capabilities from the U.S. remain precariously linked to the resolution of the Palestinian question. The ongoing discussions in Riyadh have the potential to reshape the future of U.S.-Saudi relations, especially as the kingdom seeks to bolster its global influence while also responding to domestic pressures. As the week unfolds, the outcomes of these diplomatic engagements in Riyadh could have far-reaching implications not only for the Middle East but also for the global order. The kingdom's dual role as a mediator in regional conflicts and a counterweight to U.S. interests signals a shift in the balance of power, with Saudi Arabia poised to play a central role in the evolving landscape of international relations. Looking ahead, the ability of Saudi leaders to navigate these intricate negotiations will be crucial in determining the future stability of the region and the kingdom's position within it.